Stacy said her goodbyes, talking about how she and the girls loved her and that they would miss her, but they would be all right. And whenever Beverly was ready to go, that it would be okay. While this brief paragraph from a family history writer like yourself is off to a good start, it could be better by following a simple piece of advice. Howdy, my name is Devin Noel Lee, and today I will help you write better family history stories through a simple trick called Show, Don't Tell. Be sure to check the link in the description box for more tips on how to write better family histories. If I can do this, you can do this too. According to an article on Masterclass, Show Don't Tell is a writing technique that allows the reader to experience expository details of the story through actions, sensory details, words, or the expression of a character's emotions, as opposed to the author's own description of events. The keywords for me as a family historian, it's particularly with personal history accounts, are sensory details. We can add sensory details in historical accounts as well, so be sure to stick around for that training after we first deep dive into personal history writing improvements. In grammar school, we all likely learned about the five senses: hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. So let's go back to Stacy's stories and see if we hear anything. Start by changing Stacy said her goodbyes to Janie and baby Clara love you. I love you. Stacy's voice cracked. I don't want you to go. We'll miss you so much, but don't worry about this. When you need to go see your parents, we'll be all right. Notice how we can hear not only the words, but also the tone of Stacy's voice. It's cracking. You could also add other sounds if you remember them. The beeping of a heart monitor, the labored breathing of the person to whom Stacy's speaking, perhaps the rain on the window, or the laughter at the nurse's station. What do you hear? Next, show us what you see. In this case, Stacy was talking to Beverly. Was she talking in a dimly lit hospital room where wires are going everywhere? She in the front room of Beverly's home that had a floral chair, a bay window, and a four-poster bed? These details provide the setting, but there are other intimate details that you can add as well. Notice how this one gets us close to Stacy's state of mind as she's saying these words. Stacy's voice cracked as tears trickled down her face. Often, smells can transport us to a time and place. For me, the combination of pipe tobacco and coffee remind me of my grandparents' house. What smells remind you of your grandparents' home? In this example, what smells could we add? There might be an unpleasant smell, such as antiseptic or just all the nasty smells of a hospital. Or are there pleasant smells like flowers? In sad moments like this one, happy smells often contrast with tragedies that are taking place. Notice how adding a scent can enhance a scene. In a room full of roses and lavender, Stacy said her goodbyes. Now, in this story, can we add touch or taste? Not every story lends itself naturally to the five senses. If you can add these final two, take advantage of the senses. Perhaps a hand feels cold and clammy. Perhaps the chair is it's lumpy and holey and just a rough texture. Touch is not limited what your hands can hold. Feet and skin can also sense touch. If your personal story allows you to taste the salty air or describe the sourness of a traditional dish, include those elements in your stories. What touch or taste do you think Stacy might be able to add to this story? Let me know in the comments. But before you head to the comments, if I've given you value so far, go ahead and hit the like button and share this video, because sharing is caring. Now, how do you use your senses to improve a historical story in a place you've never visited, to people you've never met, and so on and so forth? When writing historical accounts, we might struggle to include every sense, and that's okay. Can we start with sound? What if I asked you to describe the sounds of the Port of Baltimore in 1854? Can you do it? If you can, let me know in the comments, because I might credit you with a scene in my book about my ancestors who went to that very port. I can't do this because the sounds of Baltimore today would not be the same as the height of the immigration of German immigrants in the 1850s. Now, you can add a little bit of sound by using pop culture into your stories. Perhaps there is a popular song that came out during the 1940s that you think your ancestors might have appreciated, or you did. Or maybe there is a common song that people sang who were German immigrants to America that they sang on ships, and that's a well-known song. You could add sound even if you don't have other things you can pull up on. So maybe check out a little bit of pop culture that could help you out. You can easily include sight into your stories. Photos, graphics, maps, and more enhance such stories. And some things haven't changed. For instance, the shape of the calderas in Los Alamos have not really changed much in the hundreds of years. What I see today is very similar to a New Mexican ancestor saw many years ago, just with fewer trees on the mountains outside of Los Alamos. Our story starts like this. Richard Keverin immigrated to the United States in March 1912. So let's add some sights. On the 12th of March, 1912, 19-year-old Richard Keverin started his journey from Cornwall with two companions, his cousin John Harry, aged 18, and his neighbor John Eustace, aged 20. Now, I haven't added a lot of sensory sights, except for the fact that I've added two characters to the stories and their relative ages. If you have a physical description of these men, adding them to your story would enhance your sense of sight, of seeing the people, dark hair, blonde hair, stouty, slim, and so forth. What do you do with smell, taste, or touch? Unless you have artifacts that you can touch, the remaining three senses are difficult to include into historical accounts. I'm going to try to add this sense of taste. By doing that, I'm going to do this by talking about his journey to America. I found a possible menu for the ship he boarded. And so the paragraph I came up with to add a sense of taste looks like this. Breakfast options likely included pickled codfish, mashed meat, potatoes, Swedish bread, tea, and so forth. Now, I can't tell you if the cook was good, and I can't tell you if this menu was actually served on his ship. It was a menu for a sister ship, but at least I'm adding a little bit of the sense of potential taste to the story. For smell, I could describe a likely situation that would produce a variety of smells, but since we're not there, it would be wise to leave the smells for our readers to infer, like so. At night, he had a room that he only had to share with between 1 and 9 other people, which was actually luxurious for the time. Have you ever slept in such a situation with more than one person? Smells will generate, particularly in a traveling situation with few amenities. Thus, we'll let our readers decide how things smell. What if we change the sense of touch to something similar but slightly different? And what I mean is the sense of feelings or emotions. A sense of feelings does not have to explicitly describe someone's emotions, such as happy or sad, remorseful, anxious, and so on. Instead, we could suggest likely sentiments in this fashion. 2 weeks before his 20th birthday, Richard likely visited his father and older sister's grave before bidding farewell to his mother and 6 other siblings aged 30 to 10. What feelings did we add? Perhaps sadness for leaving behind his living and deceased family members. For some, this will be a feeling of good riddance. Notice how I'm letting the readers decide how to interpret the feelings, but I've added feelings to the story. Here's another example. Richard's home village, steeped in Cornish history, was unusual. The village was built around a central square, uncommon for a Cornish town. The church's tall steeple provided a landmark for ships for many a century. Here comes the emotion. The steeple would be a beacon if Richard ever returned. Notice that this description adds sights and feeling to the story. The beckoning to come home from the steeple. Now, where did I get that feeling? Well, actually, I learned about its nature from a historical book about St. Keverne. This book described the steeple beckoning sailors to the town and was a guiding landmark as they navigated the coastline. All I had to do to add emotion was write in the steeple and connect it as a guide for Richard if he ever chose to come home. In summary, when writing personal or family histories, we should strive to show our ancestors doing things rather than telling what they did. We do this while maintaining historical accuracy by using our senses as much as possible. Try this technique while revising your ancestor stories and let me know how it goes. And if you're struggling, leave a writing snippet in the comments and I'll try to give you a few suggestions. If you're ready for the next writing improvement tip, be sure to check out this video right there. If you like this video, hit subscribe. If you like this video, hit subscribe.